Okay, just to do your la 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 la. You ready? La 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 la
La
la
la
la
la
la.
la la la
That's it.
la.
La 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 la
La
la
la
la
la la
la.
la la.
Oh, g'day everybody. It is so good to see you. I do hope that you are super well. I've got some beautiful people here with me today. I've got Baron and I've got Frames TM trademarked, and we're here to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about AI. I think I might be AI. I might be Max Headroom. Does anyone remember Max Headroom? Also, we are going to talk about the 85 1.2. Gentlemen, how are you? Lay it on me.
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for Matt for having me. And I'm probably the Matrix, the AI.
Oh, you're in the Matrix.
Because if you're AI, then I'm in the Matrix.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, well, Matt, thank you also for having me as well. It's a pleasure to be on this channel. I do want to say that your channel has been inspirational to many of us, and certainly to me. And I think I've had a chance to say this on other kind of podcasts, but I don't think I've said it to you directly. So I just want to say that in the last, like, starting maybe like 2019 or so, sometime in that area, like when I was really starting to watch YouTube a lot more, and it was kind of a very negative time. Obviously, the world was getting negative as well, and it was a negative time for Nikon. And you were sort of one of the voice of sort of like I actually kind of transitioned away from watching other channels towards watching your channel and channels that became more like you. So I think you're a pioneer in the space, certainly with respect to Nikon, and I think you're very appreciated by this community and the photographic community in general. So thank you for that, and thanks for having me here.
Well, that's very kind and very overwhelming, and thank you. And maybe we can talk about that at the end, because that time was a really interesting time, and I had a lot to say, and in a way, I still have a lot more to say about what went on. But that might be part of our hardware discussion at the end. So, thank you,
Fair.
Baron. And as we, first off, please subscribe to both of these gentlemen, everybody, FramesTM and Photo Discourse. We will put links to make it easy for you right down there. You're going to be able to just click.
It is photography discourse.
Oh God, I've done it already.
But
Photography.
only Matt has a right to call it photo discourse, but only Matt can do that.
Okay, only me. Photography discourse right here. There you are. There, right in that box next to me. Okay. Frames. Let's talk about Skynet. Let's talk about
Yeah.
the T800.
Before that, since you're the bot here.
I love these references.
Yeah.
I like the Max Headroom reference as well. That was great.
Yeah. Hi. I'm Max Headroom.
So I guess the question at hand is just, I guess the one on most people's minds is AI just going to destroy photography, and destroy photographers' jobs, I guess, for one. And also just, and then there's all these other meta questions, like, is it actually art, or is it actually a valid medium, or is it just kind of bogus or whatever? And I think everyone might have a different opinion on this. I guess Frames, you sort of were the impetus to talk about this, and Frames, like, kind of like myself a little bit. Frames is very much a deep thinker and kind of a little bit of like, we're kind of quasi philosophers, and so I just am interested to hear Frames's viewpoint on this, because it is a shift. It's like I would say it's a paradigm shift for human societies happening with AI. So anyway, what are your feelings?
So, I'll tell you, it's a good question to just start with what one feels about this whole thing. And I think, to be honest, I'm still trying to grasp the whole issue, still trying to understand the full ramification of it. But I can tell you that I begin with a sense of discomfort with, and I don't know where it's coming from. Is it like, do I feel like as photographers, we own the right to create material of a certain kind? Should hack of no other kind be allowed to sort of do that? I mean, painters could have felt the same way about photography when cameras came in. But I think there's this feeling that there is a very, very little human intervention in the whole process, and there is this constant absence of actual people inputting their actual sort of craft into the process to create something. So tomorrow, if there is a market, if the buyers, institutional and individual, who are willing to buy products out of those AI machines, my question is, how happy are they going to be knowing that something that comes out of it's not a device, right? It's a product that evokes feelings and emotions in you. If you know that there is no human hand in creation of that, how does that make you feel? I think broadly you're talking about authenticity, uh, the potential for lack of human connection there, and, and that is the bigger worry. I mean, uh, so those ethical issues, that is sort of making me feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's less about oh, are the opportunities going to decline, opportunities to make more money. That's one side, of course. I mean, that's a conversation that we can have, but how do you consume AI?
Well, and Matt, what is your take?
Yeah, well, in my career, I have the majority of my income has been derived from me selling my own artwork, so books, calendars, and original artwork. And probably 30% is made up of like professional services, which is, everything from portraits to weddings to commercial lifestyle shoots where, we've got models and stylists and wardrobe and all that sort of thing. And when I look across my sphere, the only place that I can see anything realistically starting to factor into it is sort of maybe portraiture, and pretty much just, headshot portraiture. And I think I can't remember where I saw this, but there's an AI now where you can submit some photos and it will put together, it'll put you together in a sort of more formal setting based on you sending in 10 photos, and you'll just get like a headshot that's good for LinkedIn sort of scenario. When these visual bots first started to arrive, when I noticed them maybe a couple of months ago, there was a whole lot of people generating cameras. They were generating images of cameras, right? So here's the new Sony, here's the new whatever. And I have to say, they look like really scary mutations from something that Geiger would have created for Aliens. And it was like, this is not pleasing. So right now, it's like it's a bit of a sideshow, and I don't see it sort of factoring in a lot to the majority of what we do. Like, you're not going to replace a photographer who's down on a beach photographing whatever, let's say a bride and a groom. I mean, firstly, how do you do that in AI? And then do the bride and groom actually want photos that never existed? So, and look, it might roll on to a point where it's like all your friends just take photos, you submit them to the cloud, and you come back and an album gets printed and arrives at your door. And I can see that happening. I think that comes down then to tolerance, and it'll be an individual tolerance. Some people will want the real experience with a photographer and the interaction that a photographer brings. Like, some photographers would say to you, I'm going to bring some energy. Like, I'm going to bring something to help you bounce off, and I'm going to style you. I'm going to shape you. I'm going to light it. I'm going to find the best background, the best setting. And that's what we do as photographers. So much of the YouTube space is about gear, and so little of it is about the kind of 100 decisions we make when we turn up on set about light, angle, what's the wind doing, who's the tallest, who's the most outgoing person in this group, so I've got to sort of get them in the, there's so many micro decisions that we make. And
problem solving.
Exactly. So I think there is some use cases that'll clearly maybe quite quickly will be overridden by AI, and then there'll be others where it will be up to the client, and it might drive prices down a little bit, but I think humans are still going to. It's like Tesla and their, autopilot. They're just not getting there. They keep saying they're going to do it, but they just don't get there. So I think it's harder than we all think to actually replicate what humans do.
And humans are also very social animals. like in general. So
Yeah.
there is something to be said. I think you hit on this point, but like, do you really like, I mean, it seems to me like on a special event, like a wedding, like you want someone dedicated to that. Like,
Yep.
not just a bunch of iPhone snaps that are all compiled. I mean, you want someone
Yep.
who really took the time and really got you some great documentation of your memories.
Yep.
And but the flip side is it's interesting. I was at a assignment last week in Dallas, and my friend called me, told me I should get into this AI stuff, and he had his password. He wanted me to log on. I was going to talk to him this week about it, but his basic message was, and he's an artist. This guy's like he does oil paintings, and he programs augmented reality and virtual reality. And he was just saying, he was showing me these photos that he manipulated with the AI, and he was real excited about it. And he was basically saying it's just another tool in your toolbox. And like you still have an eye, and you still have your like you can't make garbage in, garbage out, right? It's the same old adage.
Totally.
So I think we have the advantage over like the masses are going to use it in the way they use it, which is more like Instagram style or TikTok style or whatever. But as far as making like really good art or like really good portraiture or like I think it's something you can incorporate if a client wants it. And I still think there's going to be a place for realism, and there's still going to be a place for like the real deal. Like I really stood in front of those lights. I really stood there. I didn't, it's not fake. It's not just like sampled from all these like database of images, So I don't know. I think we have to embrace it because it's not going away, but I also don't think it replaces photographers per se. I don't. I think it's just it's a new adaptation. I mean, one last thing I'll say is, to the extent that it would replace photographers, is the same way in which like it'll replace lawyers, it'll replace taxi drivers, it'll replace, like, at some point humans won't have a role in the human society. So that's
and that's what Gene Roddenberry I've changed the thing. That's what Gene Roddenberry basically imagined, was that humans would not have to work anymore, and then society would be without the need for money, and then we'd have the perfect society. So I don't know how to get rid of that sign, but because obviously this has been coming a while, and I recently last year I did a shoot, and it rained like crazy, and it was for an electric car thing, and I've been meaning to make a video about it. And they wanted a hero shot, and I took this great hero shot, and I made it almost look awesome, but the sky was gray. And somewhere in the back of my head, it was like, oh, doesn't Photoshop do sky replacements? And so I went in there and I hit one button, and unbelievably, it masked out trees and buildings. It even masked out the windows in the building. So the sky behind the windows, looking through the windows, had the correct. It was like, okay, and I don't even believe, like with my work, I would never, ever do that. My work, my personal work for my books and whatever, that's always about as real as possible. But for a commercial client, I was able to deliver them something that 10 years ago, masking that out would have taken 2 hours, 3 hours, and it literally happened in, I don't know, 5 seconds. And it was really convincing. And I had a choice of skies. So it
was still your shot, though. It's still the composition that you made. All you did was enhance something to make it better for your client. That's all, because you didn't have that in nature at that moment.
Yeah, and you're so right. And it's still, I would say 85%, well, even more, to be honest, than that, my shot. So I was about to say, some of it's actually good. Some of it actually has real purposes.
I'll give an example. So a lot of the the environmental portraiture of like the models and things that I'd shoot in Los Angeles, the sky in Los Angeles is almost always just blue.
Yeah, no clouds. Yeah.
No clouds, and it's super boring. It's just negative space. And I replace skies all the time because it doesn't look that good. It looks better when I replace the sky. No. So somebody was like, "Oh, well, if you replace the sky, then it's just not it's not real, or it's not a photograph anymore." And I says, "Well, I'm like, what are you talking about? First of all, that only applies, in my opinion, to photojournalism."
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
If it's photojournalism, you can't change it because the intention is that it's reality. I'm making like portrait sort of paintings, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't think don't tell me Monet didn't add a lily pad somewhere.
Well,
that wasn't
can I just throw at you? What do you think Sports Illustrated's been doing for the last since the 1960s? Retouching everything.
exactly.
You know, they just didn't do it with a computer, and it took way longer. I mean, there has been a few discussions recently about people who have not told the truth about, you know, they're saying here's a real like I was reading about a woman who's photographed some snow tiger with I think it was Mount Everest or something in the background, and you know, there was this whole story behind it, and then an expert came out and said, "Nah, that tiger is just never going to be there at that time of day. They don't do that." And she admitted it was just all a composite. It was all fake. And so,
Could she produce the raw file from a camera?
well, she admitted in the end it was a fake anyway.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I always felt that way about my pictures. Like a lot of people were like, you know, oh, you should watermark something, which is, of course, doesn't do anything because you can edit watermarks out of anything. So,
yeah,
but like, you know, what if someone's going to steal it? I'm like, look, if any shot I take ever had any value, and I had to prove it was mine, I can produce the raw file. I don't share my raw unless it's for a commercial client. Then I give them the raw files, but it's my stuff. I'm the only one who has those raw files.
yeah.
So
I mean, the bigger issue I've found with theft is the internet is so enormous. I've had other people tell me I think someone's stolen your image, and then
right.
they have. Frames. Anything else you wanted to add about AI? Because I think we've decided that we're all really skilled, and the computers are a long way from being as skilled and having the amazing personalities that we have.
No, I'll also, and I watched this very recent video by Tony and Chelsea, where they essentially showed the change in the output in the last 3 months. And they said that the AI still gets the text jumbled up and all that, but the detailing in the images, they're like surprisingly good. They look like real shots and then edited, like the osprey catching a fish, I think. So
But sorry, can you just expand on what they were showing? What was it that they
so
were
it,
showing?
it was a bird. It was a bird dipping into the water and just catching a fish. And so they had given the prompt to the AI Mid-Journey, I think 3-4 months back, and the output was all jumbled up and not really. You couldn't understand what's going on in that picture. But this time when they did it, it was remarkably good. And this is the point that Tony made, was that this is just 3 months, and that's where I think I completely agree with him. When we say long way off, I think the rate of improvement is not linear. It is not linear. And before before long, I think by the end of this year, AI, look, there are many Instagram channels who are very popular now who only put out AI portraiture. And it is crazy. I loved some of them. I thought it's like, I thought some of those portraits were taken with a 28 1.4 by Nikon. And I kept searching, okay, what lens is it, in the comment section. Then someone said, oh, it's AI. Then I went back to his channel and realized, no, this is all AI. They look crazy. They look beautiful.
But
They look like real people.
what I meant by that comment was, though, not that the computers can't create astonishing images. They can. You could type in Martians on Mars, right? You're going to get that. It's going to troll the internet for some good-looking Martians. It's going to troll the internet for some good-looking Mars, and then it's going to stick it together. My point is, I think humans are still in the areas that are still available to us to work in, as in the clients who want to employ humans. Humans are still going to do a better job when humans have asked humans to do it. If you just say, I want a palm tree on a desert island, and you don't need Elle Macpherson in the background, or you don't need Chris Hemsworth in the background, then sure, type it into a computer and you'll have a result, and it'll cost you $5 instead of costing $250,000 to fly everybody to a desert island and do it. So, but right now, Chris Hemsworth is not going to let Disney use an AI version of him to throw in a picture and make him, it's not going to happen. So the technology is there. That was not what I meant. I totally agree. The technology is there. Yes.
Before long, I'm predicting this, and probably we're going to see it happen. There is going to be these companies who will create AI characters. There's going to be a Chris Hemsworth or Chris Boston, let's say, that they will create, and they'll look like a person, and they'll create it, and they'll cast him in a movie.
I mean,
And I think
it already exists. It's already been fiddled around with for the last 20 years. Again, I think,
I think
I've heard actors talking about it, and they're sort of like, okay,
Right.
if it happens,
That's
it
the
happens.
point. Like if as a photographer, if you're like, oh, well, we're about to be replaced, then I would say, well, it's not that we're about to be replaced, it's everybody is about to be replaced. Like in every field, just about.
It's a good point.
So it's yeah, so that at that point, like we're all in the same boat, and like it is Star Trek then, in a way. Like if there was enough energy, like energy is the whole thing that controls society, right? We know like that's like your ability to output energy is the level of like evolution that your society is at. And they have like there's some scale that was made up, it's from 0 to 7. And we're like a type 0 entering type 1 right now. Star Trek The Next Generation is like a type 3. And like something like the Q from Star Trek, the Q continuum, that's like a type 7, where they can literally do, like, they're gods from our point of view. Like they can just like, they could like teleport across the universe in a flash of a second, but it has all to do with the access to power, like some kind of like massive amount of power. So if there was enough power, nobody would have to work anyway. And it would be the Star Trek society. Like if there were replicators and if the power was unlimited and everyone could easily have shelter and food and clothes, and everybody and not everybody, once everybody can have that, then yeah, now you just spend your time doing what you want. But I'm saying if all the jobs just go away, that this is a weird thing. If all the jobs go away, but we don't have that power. So like we're not at that level yet, but now there's no jobs and nobody can make any money. We're going to have to, society will, there'll either be a massive revolution, like because people won't be able to survive, and when people get hungry and can't survive, that's when they're willing to fight. Or we'll have to retool society completely, where we have a whole new paradigm of how we exist and what we do.
So-
And so I just don't think that photography is like the ultimate victim here. Like if it wipes us out, it's gonna wipe everybody out.
What I was coming at it from was that my angle is that I think it's not about completely making photographers and creators irrelevant. I think the whole point is how do you fully account for the impact of AI, one, and how is that going to shape cameras and photography in future? So I think what's going to happen first is that there are low value clients across industries and individuals who will say, look, I don't want to spend $1,000 for my wedding, or $2,000 for my wedding. What I'm going to do is just I'm going to pay this $100 to this AI engine. I'm just going to feed some pictures of ours to it and describe the moment that we lived, or maybe just feed it some iPhone images, let's say. And I want a better version of that. And they don't want art, authenticity, creativity, all of that coming from a point of view that's like a real person captured a real moment and authentically and beautifully. So what I'm saying is that I think the value of authenticity is going to go up, and there's going to be premium on that, and there was some segment. So I think it's going to be more niche. Is all I'm trying to understand. There are some there's some corporates, for example, in automobile today, they're already replacing photo shoots because they have 3D rendering of the product, and it's so easy for them. They can control lighting, color, everything is you can do all of it. But then in some cases, some of those brand and product managers will say, I want to actually take my car to a location and shoot it in this way or that way because I want to give it a story, blah, 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 not just a studio shot. There you start having, because then that job should become more valuable to him, because he wants a special look. And for that, I think we have to look at our pricing accordingly, number one. Number two, and I think therefore, what Nikon has been talking about also is that I think the professional market is going to niche out a bit more, and the enthusiast market is going to become a lot more important market. And therefore, Nikon's foray into ZFC, or let's say the future ZF, photography for pleasure, for process, the joy of it is like Tony can say something to the AI and it can give a beautiful picture of a bird, but you still wouldn't have experience going to that place, being in that environment, and
I
getting
agree
that sense of
completely. I mean, bird photography, like 99.9% of it is hobbyists who love
Yeah.
it and they want to go out and see the birds. And they
Same with
want to
street
shoot.
photography.
But who wants to buy a picture of a fake bird that is getting a fish, no matter how great the picture is? Like if you either want to put the one on the wall that you shot yourself because you're proud of the fact that you shot that you were there, you
Yeah.
saw
I,
it,
I,
you
I-
shot
and
it.
I think that's the value. Like
Like,
I shot it, I made it, and I was there.
right.
I have a story to tell.
I think you've made a great point, and I already think, like, I don't know how long everyone's been a photographer for, but I already think our industry has been extraordinarily disrupted already. Photo banks were doing what AI was doing. I don't know if you guys are aware of a photo bank called, I think it's called Unsplash, which was allowing photographers to put their images online for free, and companies could download it for free and use it for free with the intention that, you know, let's say Apple, and Apple have actually used this service. I've seen some articles about it, in the intention that Apple would pay them next time. But so we've gotten to the point, and this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, where even library photography was free, and it was good quality stuff. And so professional photographers are so eroded, I would say, in the sphere that we're in, like the YouTube space. You know, who would hazard a guess what percentage of viewers are they work full time as photographers? There's no side hustle, and or people that buy cameras. Like, would it be 5% who are actually working photographers? What do you reckon, Baron? I reckon you've got a good feel on it.
That's a great question. I mean, I was talking, so I just moved to Austin and there's a camera store here. It's a very good one, by the way. It's called Precision Camera. And it's a very nice store, which is lucky because not all cities have great photography stores anymore, as you probably know. But this one's very, very nice, kind of impressive, actually. And anyway, I was talking to the guy who was selling me something, and he's a younger guy, probably early to mid 20s. He's doing wedding photography here. He's fairly successful. It's like he's kind of on the rise. He's telling me about it, but he's also working at the camera store. Like that's also what he's doing both. It's like you said, Matt, there's a hustle going on, and at some point he'd obviously like to leave the camera store at the point that he has enough.
Yeah.
Right. But right now he does both.
So ultimately, where I wanted to go with that is I feel like the industry has been so eroded already. It doesn't mean frames it can't be more eroded. But I was already having the conversation with myself, and I can't recall if I've ever made a YouTube video about it or not, that this generation of photographers, we might be the last generation of full-time photographers, and there will really just be a handful of Annie Leibovitz and, you know, the world famous photographers. There'll be a handful of them left, and there just won't be the, you know, I 3 years ago I made a video where I thought there was 2 million working photographers in the world, and I don't think, and I worked that out somehow. You know, I love to estimate data. But I just think that's going to continue to be eroded, and we've been heavily hammered. Like the iPhone was the first major, digital cameras was the first major hit, because what happened was there's a whole lot of people who really weren't that serious about photography, but thought, hey, that'd be a fun side hustle. And then suddenly you had this flood of new people who were working in the industry. And that was, you know, when the Nikon D70 came out, and you had a camera that was good enough to be near on 35mm film quality. That's 2003. So 20 years ago, this erosion began. Then the iPhone arrived, and I have had clients say to me, oh, you know what? We'll probably just shoot this with our iPhone this time around. No worries. Another round of erosion. So for me, like AI, it's just another round of erosion. And what I've always tried to just do is be original, push the envelope, always just push the envelope, like new tech. You know, this is why you see me so excited about that 85mm lens, which we're just about to talk about, is because that allows me to go right to the very edge of what is possible. photographically, right to the edge. And I've always lived right on the edge photographically. I've always pushed my gear as hard as I can. And that's just simply what we've got to do. We've got to be, if you want to still survive in this space, that's it. And we are. There's going to be less and less working paid photographers, and it was already in full swing.
My God, I
And
think
and it's been going for 20 years. Trust me, I've been doing this as a paid job for 33 years, and I have seen the decline. I've seen it happen every
Matt,
step.
that sentence that when you said we could be the last generation of photographer, I mean, that's such a strong, I mean, it really hit me.
Well,
but he's saying,
what I mean is full time,
Yeah,
pays all your bills, and
Yeah.
there's millions of us. I think
I
there'll
mean-
still be. I still think there might be like 5 to 20, depending on the size of a population in every country, that are sort of specialists that people still need. But this is why we're talking about it. AI is going to just continue to close the
I mean,
margins.
you
Now
could say-
it might take another generation, right? But it's
you
coming.
could say that the photographer, like a wedding photographer in the future, could be a very high-end proposition, because only the ultra rich can afford
Exactly.
to actually have a human being do something
Exactly.
like that could become a special thing. That's almost like, it's almost like that's like the artisan is doing it instead of just the generic, cybernet.
Well, here's
Yeah,
here's a crazy idea for you. Some dude turns up with 6 GoPro 360s, places them around the venue, just records, and then it just goes up into the cloud and something comes back, right? And that would be cheaper than, photographies can cost 10 grand, 20 grand. So I don't know. I was never in that space because it felt like extortion. But I know some photographers charge that much money for weddings. Some dude coming in with and all he does is sit there and make sure that the batteries don't go flat. Yeah, you can see that happening. You can see that happening. So I agree with you, Baron. I mean, something I wanted to talk about just before in regards to AI was the fact that Uber, from the moment they started, they said we're going to have robo taxis, and they still haven't achieved it.
yeah.
And the other thing that confused me about that was that I'd get into an Uber and I'd start talking to the driver and I'd go, "Yeah, how you doing? What's going on? What do you think about the future of you in Uber? They're going to try and replace you." But people were still there. So I don't know really what I'm trying to say here, other than I think, AI
you're
can
trying
only
to
get
say
so
that
far.
Technology is
Look,
hard.
If all the
Technology is hard to get. It's hard to get technology exactly right.
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
And I
Well, yeah.
think with photography, we've got an amazing capacity to pick the difference between reality and not. Although I have to say, you're right, those images are getting pretty crazy. But I do think photography will survive at the size it is today for what you gents both talked about, which is there's so many enthusiastic non-professionals, and I reckon that's the majority of the market today. That's
For me, photography is a process of it.
The fact is, I would still shoot. I'd still shoot photographs, even if I was doing something else.
Exactly, same.
And I did in the past. So,
yeah.
And I know you would too, Matt. It's not like, even if you had to shift your occupation, or let's say you just retire from working full time as a photographer, you just retire because you're retiring, you're still going to shoot photographs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you love it, and that's another part of it. It's a passion.
Frames, what did you want to say? You've disappeared. Are you coming back, buddy?
I guess my point I was making before, though, is if everybody's job got replaced and nobody makes any money, then it's, if nobody makes money, it's like everybody makes money.
Yeah, I mean, the Star Trek universe is, it could happen, and I think the only missing piece is actually the replicators, the ability to just generate anything at no cost in an instant. If we ever cracked that holy grail, then there it is. There's the water thing. I'm glad that made it.
I can imagine that happening in a place like Singapore, because it's like such a uniform society. Everyone has a certain kind of thing. But in US or India or any other country where the society is, not everyone is that well off. I mean, there's a huge band, right? Huge spectrum where people are well off versus people who are like in the middle, and it's not easy to accommodate for such large populations with that kind of model. I think we're centuries away from that sort of
The idea
model.
the idea is frames is that money just simply doesn't exist. There is no such thing as wealth. It's gone. And by the way, I'm not a communist. I'm not advocating for it, but that's the Gene Roddenberry model, is that money doesn't exist anymore, and everybody pursues their they pursue their whatever they want to excel in, and that's it.
You want to be a painter, you can be a painter because you don't have to worry about feeding yourself and housing yourself.
And basically society is self-sustained because you can replicate anything. And it goes back to what Baron said, that, you know, if you've got energy, then energy, you can generate atoms into food and you're done.
How do you?
And I get it. You'd need a lot of replicators in China and in India more than anywhere else in the world. That's completely true. I just saw a stat that India just officially has a larger population than China. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. Yeah. I think we're getting.
Which is amazing because you're geographically smaller. So there's a lot of people in India.
Yeah. I mean, no. The other thing is that also you realize that the north and northeast of China is almost inhabitable.
Yes, sure.
And
I've taken a
entire
train through there. It's desert.
You have? Oh my God, yeah.
I went from Beijing to Ulaanbaatar to Mongolia.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
There's a video on my channel about it. It's one of my early videos.
That is amazing. I
Check it out.
I took a cruise on the Yangtze River the year before they dammed it.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, they actually forcibly relocated 400 million people the next year.
Whoa! Yeah, well, but you know, you've seen the videos where they can build an apartment block that's 25 stories tall in like a week. It's the most. You've got it. That's insane. Anyway, shall we wrap AI? Because I think it's a never-ending story. It could go on forever.
It just, it's an amazing chat.
One thing about the AI might be interesting, and this will segue into our gear discussion, or like what we're going to get into.
Is that a sensor cleaner?
What is that in your hand there, buddy, Baron?
That's a sensor cleaner.
Oh, yeah. I'm scared to do that.
Damn, you do that? Yeah, you're the only person I know who actually, like, I bought it, but I've never used it. I'm too scared to use it.
Too scared.
Not a problem, guys. It's really not a problem.
All right. Really? Can you make a video about it?
Yeah, you should.
You will get 1 million views.
There are videos about it, but I could. Yeah.
Make yours better.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I want to watch it.
Anyway, let's wrap up AI. Let's wrap it up because we're at the 1 hour mark.
Imagine if the cameras, so obviously it's just a matter of time until the cameras have like full-on Wi-Fi to the internet, right? That's like something that's kind of, even Tony Northrup talks about this a lot. Like, why is the iPhone, you have like you have all this like power on the iPhone in addition to the camera, but our cameras have none of that other power.
Well, they don't have a SIM in them. Otherwise they could be easy.
But if they put that in, but I'm saying like you could actually do the AI like editing of your actual authentic photo actually in the camera. You could be like, I take a shot of Matt and I'm like, I want Matt on the moon. And I'm like, and in the camera, I say Matt on the moon. And then I have a camera, like the shot of Matt on the moon in the on the camera.
I think it'll come. I mean, my next desire is just for images to get really easily into your phone. Like, it still doesn't feel easy enough. I just want it to arrive in my photos folder. I don't want to go through
this.
I don't want to go through Snapimage. I just want it to be there.
Do this. I just want to do this one swipe and it's on my phone.
I tell you what I want to do. I got an even better idea. I want a button. I just hit this button, and there it is.
Yeah.
No swiping. I just shot it and I love it and I hit a button.
You know what I want? I want to see the picture and just select it on the phone. Like I want to see this, like select on the phone and then say, okay, yes, click yes, cross, delete. I don't want it. Like, the entire process of just unloading the pictures on a hard drive and then just going through it and selecting. Still want to do it quickly. There's so much time in that.
That'd be interesting. Imagine if you could hit a button and it just goes to your computer, and you, wherever you are in the world, it's sitting in Capture One when you get home. I'd like that. Yeah. Here you go, Nikon. I'll give you that one for free.
That's a great innovation, I think, and that's how technology should help us.
It's connectivity issues though for all of that.
Very good. All right. Well, there's been a great AI discussion. I have a feeling it's our first of many. I feel that we were just warming up about AI and
You
Max
gave me a
Headroom.
lot of things to talk about. I kid you not, but not only AI and life, and we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Because you have these great ideas about, and you seem to be someone who's very deep into sci-fi and stuff. Clearly,
I don't know what you mean.
I mean,
I love that you're.
exactly.
I love that. By the way, speaking of Star Trek, I actually went to school with Gene Roddenberry's son,
Oh, wow.
Rod Roddenberry.
Rod
Yeah.
Roddenberry. Wow.
Yeah, pretty funny, right?
Dad's got a good sense of humor right there, doesn't he?
I guess so.
Hi, my name is Rodney Roddenberry.
Yep, it was Rod Roddenberry. I
Oh,
remember that.
Rod. You wouldn't want to be drunk and the policeman comes over. What's your name? Rod Roddenberry. Anyway, let's talk. Should we talk briefly about the 85mm? Just briefly. Let's try and I'm gonna set
Oh
a
my God.
timer.
No, look,
We're gonna speed it. 5 minute timer,
I want
Siri.
I want to hold it in my hand and then just let me just bring it quickly.
You had this before any of us, Matt.
I did.
Yeah, Matt,
Although
we're all jealous.
this is not the original one. This is another
Right.
copy,
That's
obviously.
your copy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It cost many dollars.
It does.
Years.
But you know what?
So I just got a chance to use both of those lenses professionally last week. I took the 85-1.8 on the trip when I went to Dallas. So I had to travel, and it was farther away. And I said I just didn't really want to carry the weight and the size in the bag. Took the 85-1.8, got amazing shots, and then in Austin, a client specifically called out shallow depth of field for a lot of the stuff they wanted. And I took the 85-1.2, and I was telling Matt, or I was talking, I'm not sure if this was on the recording before, but I was shooting strobes, and I actually had to shoot the 1.2 at 1.4 because I had a 400 watt second light, and I couldn't turn it down low enough. So at ISO 100 at 1.2, I couldn't turn it down low enough.
Yeah, that's where us photographers need to carry some ND filters.
Yeah,
my favorite part of this lens is the front element.
Yeah, and how smart? How smart
can fit.
It's true. How smart was it that they receded that front element back about a centimeter?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just so smart. They could have made the lens shorter, but they didn't. They gave us a half an inch of protection, which is just because if Nikon hadn't done that, it would have been the same length as the Canon. And
I mean, the build quality of this lens is outstanding.
Yeah. So what's if let's give viewers one favorite takeaway from using this lens, because we've got our 5 minute timer and I reckon we've got 2 minutes left. So one favorite takeaway. Baron, you go first.
A favorite takeaway. Well, it's got a very unique look. And I would say it's got a very unique look, but of course, if you're not going to shoot this lens at 1.2, then you can get the 1.8 lens.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's how it is.
Frames.
But if you're going to shoot it at 1.2, it is very special, and you can't replicate that with the 1.8. So some people were saying like the bokeh is significantly nicer at 1.2 than at 1.8. But at 1.8, it's beautiful as well. You have to see side by side to notice how much better 1.2 is. Anyway.
So I think your 1 point was 3 points. Thank you very much, Baron. Come on down, frames. Oh,
so I'll show you something. This is the Sigma 56 1.4. Okay.
Oh.
So this is the 85 equivalent, 85 f2 essentially, right, on the Fuji mount, and this is the 1.2. Oh my god! Now, the one thing I'll say is that this lens, the 85 1.2, the way it handles point sources of light, and we had a discussion with Baron and I had a discussion on this. The way this lens handles point sources of light, and I've used the Canon. Okay, I've used the Canon. I was just editing the pictures out of the Canon yesterday. There is a lot more flare, a lot more flare on the Canon. Okay, and the way it handles it, and the whole point of having a 1.2 on high dynamic range Nikon cameras is that at 800 ISO or 400 ISO, you're shooting the night with ISO 64, I saw, right? It's crazy that you decided to do that and bring the shutter speed down to 1/30th, 13th of a second, and so I think the way it handles the point sources of light that allows us to shoot uh, during night situations a lot more comfortably compared to a Canon. Because what do you have in the night? You have point sources of light. You have a bulb there. You have a tube light there. You have this and that. So I think the way it can handle those sources of light, Nikon is so thoughtful. It's like they know if it's a 1.2 on our high dynamic range cameras, they're going to push the ISO to 400, and then they're going to go out and shoot at night. So how does a night scene look like? How can I handle the candles? Can I
Is
can
that
I
working? I'm
yeah,
answering your
yeah,
I'm answering your question for you.
yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Oh my
That's
God,
beautiful.
I watched this video.
Yeah, it looks so nice to see it here, though.
I mean, this is just I'm just sharing capture one with you guys. But look at how it's handling the light, the rain, you know.
So
far
I
out.
just, can you zoom into the place where
Oh,
it's
you
like
bet.
the
Baby, you ask
yeah,
it,
this
I give it to you. We just do it.
yeah, please.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
Sorry, it's not in focus that bit, but here is
that's
in
okay.
focus.
That's okay. But I'm going to make a point. See, what's happening in that scene is that you have rain coming in, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you had flare, significant amount of flare in that space, you wouldn't see the raindrops,
No.
right? So
Well, it'd be
that
different. It'd be different. Yeah.
it'll be different. I know you won't see that. You won't see the rich detail of the raindrops falling like that,
Yeah.
and I would lose the texture from that picture.
Yeah. I mean, for me, see, it's things like this. We're at 400%, right? And it's control. I mean, can you see any purple there? I can't.
No.
Like, that's phenomenal.
I don't, and I don't see
Phenomenal.
the haze around the light. I think that's the crazy thing,
And that's how
and I think,
far out
but,
I am.
and then that's why I said call it a Noct in one of my videos. I said call it a Noct.
that's
It
great.
really is made for the night.
Like, just
love
look at that. Like here, this area here would normally have a lot of flare, and it's just
That's what I mean.
it's not there. So
That's what I mean, Matt.
yeah, well, I agree with you, and that was going to be my point. Is and I said it in my video, so I'm just repeating it. It's just the ability to be able to go out and shoot this sort of stuff, get beautiful outcomes. I mean, look at this. This guy's in focus, handheld at 1/20th of a second. You can see his shoes here in focus. He's actually moving a bit, but his shoes down the bottom here are in focus. And it's handheld, and and I'm at 64 ISO. So that's what I love about this lens is I can just do whatever I want to do. Basically, is the answer. Let's just say the hoopla around this lens is real, and I said it in my first video. It will exceed expectations. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
But I would also state that the Z9 had surpassed expectations.
It has.
And I would also state that the 400 2.8 and the 600 f4 have surpassed expectations.
There you
And
go.
I would also state that the 800 6.3 PF has surpassed expectations.
It's all true.
Oh, and by the way, the 400 4.5 has surpassed expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, the 24 to 120 has surpassed expectations. So, like, honestly, this is what I would say. I would say that Nikon continues to be, and it has been my whole life and your whole life, Matt, but also for generations before us, it continues to be an optical engineering company.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And that's what they do. And I would say that as a body of lenses, I believe that the Z line, certainly the S line of the Z lenses, but the S line Z lenses as a body of lenses are the best body of lenses for full frame in existence, in my opinion.
I agree. And you've reminded me of something I want to make a video about, but I'm going to share it here in this very video. So I've been having a bit of a theory as I walk through life around this here. And this here is a lens cap, but no, that's not what I'm actually talking about. I'm talking about that word there.
NIKKOR.
What? NIKKOR. Now, would you guys agree that in the F-mount era, Nikon didn't lean so hard into NIKKOR? NIKKOR wasn't written, I don't believe, on the lens caps. Is that right?
It wasn't. It said
I
Nikon.
didn't notice that.
That's
Said
right.
Nikon or Nikon. The other thing is, I remember when in 1987, maybe I bought a 105 macro lens for my
Yep.
f4,
Yep.
and it was the micro NIKKOR lens.
Okay.
But that was a big deal because I remember thinking, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, that's right.
Like-
So my point is, all these lenses, they've lent into the word NIKKOR, but there's another thing they've done. Every single one says Z. Now, I've got this little theory going that, well, Nikon is an optics company, right? And they really want to delineate Z. Okay, Z from F, but, you know, we all know these are the new lenses. They've got S. No other lenses that had S in them. Does this mean that Nikon might be thinking about making some NIKKOR lenses that are not Zs?
For other brands, you mean? I don't know.
I don't know. This whole branding thing, it's been very solid. It's got to have the NIKKOR. It's got to have the Z.
They could certainly build in adapters to any of these lenses because they can adapt to anything.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very easy. Well, would it?
I mean, that would be a
Go
great
shorter.
business idea, to be honest. I mean, why don't they do it for the cinema line?
Cinema.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Example.
Canon would license them. But they did they originally were partners back in 1930s. So I don't know.
Anyway, it's just watching the naming and the fact that NIKKOR has come back, and it's written on everything now, and it wasn't, I don't think, in the F days, and that all the names, every single lens is the NIKKOR Z, and then its actual name. That's it. That's my whole theory is swinging off that. So we'll wait and see what happens in the future.